Alright, so I'm playing some Nier Replicant. I'm here. This isn't the first time I've done this section. This is for Nier, and maybe for other Yoko Taro games. I haven't really played any others other than Nier. But secondary playthroughs are very much recommended the way the game's sort of formatted in that. So starting another path. I'll try to avoid spoilers. I will probably dive a little bit at the end, but for now, especially earlier on, you don't have to worry about that. But yeah, my expectations for this game were very high. Like Nier Automata is one of my favorite games of all time. I enjoyed the shit out of that game. And I guess there was partially a concern. I'm just sort of grinding here because, like I said, I already did this before, but my concern sort of being Automata really took off. This game was more niche, so it was, the larger Drakengard series. So I figured there was a reason for that there was probably things Automata did that really made it more approachable and appealing to a wider audience. But at the same time, this is a remake, re-release, whatever. So I figured they had a great opportunity here to sort of fix some of the issues and make this, relatively equivalent to Automata. Or as close as it could get, because obviously you're working within a framework. How well did they accomplish this? I'm a little disappointed. It's not a bad game by any stretch of the imagination, but Automata is still significantly better in my opinion. And, well, some particular issues I had. One was traversal. I remember Automata, traversal was not a big deal. The world was a lot more open. In this game, it's a lot more linear. And even if you didn't like sort of going back and forth in that, there always seemed to be, I forget exactly what they were, but you have like the save points, which are also checkpoints that you can fast travel to. This game doesn't really do that, which, like I said, when you have a more linear, not as fun world to sort of explore around in, it's definitely a bit disappointing. I don't know how it all works or whatnot, but I just feel like, is that a requirement? I didn't try to skip it last time. Yeah, okay, it is a requirement. But I just don't see, like, there are quick travel points, but they're a lot more out of the way. There is still a little repetitive linear traveling that doesn't really add too much. That's not really as fun. So I just don't really understand why we couldn't, like, the safe boxes are in similar locations. There's one right there to that you would expect in Automata. So I don't get why they couldn't have just made them quick travel locations here. That way you're not doing as much of the tedious traveling back and forth. And hell, quick travel is actually also locked to the second half of the game, which I guess I don't necessarily mind that much if it was handled better, just because you have tasks, or side quests I should say, that are locked to the first half of the game. So they're a bit more painful than they probably should be. I think I forgot to salvage materials from the last sheep, but like, I kind of get it would sort of shorten the game, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing at all. Would rather a shorter great game than a longer good game. And I just feel like in general, like the grinding in this game was a lot worse than Automata. Like, I remember there was some side quest, and also if you were to go through and upgrade all the weapons, you need to get memory and titanium alloy. And I only really found it in one location. Or I guess technically two for the titanium alloy, but they're both sort of really out of the way. You have to go through a bunch just to reach the location. Then you have to go through the entire area again just to have another shot to get the materials. And it was a pain in the ass to just do that for the side quest, let alone all the extra materials you would need for weapon upgrades. And I just don't remember that being the case in Nier Automata. I remember having a relatively easy, fun time going around and getting the materials. I think you needed all the weapon upgrades to get one of the endings. I 100%ed Automata. I got all the achievements. I did all the side quests. There was no reward for it, but I just thought it was fun to try to maximize my character's level too for the hell of it, just because it was more Nier Automata to play and I didn't want to stop playing. That wasn't the case here. It was just a lot more pain in the ass to do that sort of thing. Like, I think in Automata, that last thing I mentioned about leveling my character up was the most repetitious thing I did, and that wasn't even that bad. This is, like, much worse. I think I did it in one session. I think this, for, like, the titanium alloys and stuff, like, it would be one section just to upgrade one weapon or clear one side quest as opposed to, knocking out a decent chunk of them, So yeah, I basically gave up on going for 100% in this game, which is really a shame. I really intended to because, like I said, I like Automata so much, but eventually I just had to be like, this isn't worth it. Particularly, it was that grind for the titanium and memory alloy that did it to me. Because then I'm like, this is just two materials, let alone all of the other materials that might exist and also be a pain in the ass to get. I will say, though, speaking of achievements, that I did sort of like the idea. I don't remember if Automata had it, and this isn't like a super creative thing, but there was achievements for sort of speed running the bosses, beating them as quick as possible. I thought they were fun in general to do. I don't remember particularly doing that in Automata. I'll admit that I was kind of concerned. So, like I said, in Nier games, you gotta replay. There is a lot of incentive to do so. And I was a little worried because just the way this one's structured compared to Automata, I was just worried about how well it would go or if I would get sick of it. Sort of speedrunning through wound up kind of working out better than I thought. The main reason for that is, like I said, you had the first playthrough where you're going through nice and slow, taking everything in. The second playthrough where you start to speed up, try to go through certain areas as quick as you can. Although there was some stuff that sort of slowed stuff down, like there was a lot of extra story stuff going on in your second playthrough. And there was also some side quests, like the ones I sort of mentioned with those materials that I had to finish. But still, in general, the main areas I was trying to go through as quick as possible. Like, I was worried particularly about the next playthrough. But that one, it was like, it worked out better than I thought because you're able to just be a lot more efficient and really see yourself speed up when you go for that second, attempt to speed run it, if that makes any sense. Like the first time, you're still sort of making mistakes and that sort of thing. And this one, you're just a lot better. Still, not obviously compared to a lot of the people who, play the game a million times and are amazing at it, but it was fun enough. Also, it helps that I didn't notice until that third playthrough that you could charge when riding a bull, thus going along those linear paths a little quicker. One thing I will say with the different routes is I think it is good to know going in. So for your second playthrough, I would watch everything again. There's just so much extra stuff going on that it's worth it. Third playthrough, I heard particularly to pay attention to Devola, Popola, and the seaport or seafront section, because that's where things sort of change there. Everything else is pretty much the same. And then, like, right after you beat the final boss. And then in this playthrough, to particularly pay attention for another boss to show up. And then that's where things start to change here. So I think that's good to know, so you're not, you don't think you're missing anything. You sort of know what to look for in that. But they did. It's once again just like Automata. Just it's so good. Just the developments and kind of like Automata, but not to the same extent. You have like a lot of questions, and this one they're a little more blatant about it. It's like, hey, you want to know this, don't you? Yep. So, but then they even dove into like some of the bosses in that, and like I said, with them, and even just some of the side stories in that. They're just really good. They take all sorts of interesting twists and turns, and like I said, I don't really want to spoil anything, but it is definitely up to the standard Nier set, and I think you can even argue it's even better in this game, although it's close. But yeah, you just get a lot more context to what's going on. Like, I feel like you go through the story through the main character's perspective mainly, but then you just get all these other perspectives afterwards, which just add so much context in that. I can't speak highly enough. It takes a lot to get me to want to replay something and have it be fun, especially, sort of immediately, sort of have it feeling a little more forced. That's not an issue with these games. Continuing on with sub-stories, though, I will say that some of the, like I said, I feel like the stories themselves sometimes were the best reward with it. I do remember that there was two particular ones I wanted to mention. The first is that there's one off to the side that doesn't even come up in the menus or anything. I missed it my second playthrough. My first and second. I didn't even notice it until the third. But there's some weird goat slaying mini game, and it's like, I think that's fine and interesting in that, but they don't really. There's like no incentive for it. It's not towards your submission completion. I don't think it counts towards any achievements, and that you just don't get a big reward or anything for it. So that's kind of unfortunate. The other one, and I just want to mention this one because it dragged on quite a bit. It was the fishing side mission, and it's like, I don't know, I'm mixed. Like, I kind of appreciate them sort of giving a little focus to one of the side activities, but there were some challenging times in that one. So, some moments where I thought about, maybe this is what convinces me to not 100% the game. And I made it through everything, but that is another one to look for when you're playing. With the characters, though, I mean, the main party here is so good. There's just such great chemistry between everyone. They all sort of play their role, and their interactions together are great. Particularly Kane and Wise. They're two of my favorite video game characters now. That is definitely a really great strength for this game. In general, though, like, I feel like with the tone and the gameplay, it's what you would expect, like, coming off of Automata, honestly. And that's perfectly fine. Those are areas where expectations were definitely met. I know I've been kind of negative with some things with this game, but those are two very good areas comparatively. But like I said, some of the other shortcomings, like I said, you can tell it's an earlier game where they sort of rethought and just made stuff better along the way. There's, I think, 9 major areas in the game. I just thought I would talk about some of my favorites and just general thoughts. A lot of them got a little gimmicky, which I think it's fine. I like when they try new stuff. I don't fault them for that. But at the same time, I feel like my favorite areas were the ones where they were just more straightforward and like you would expect. Like probably my favorite area was probably the Ari. The Ari I really enjoyed. Just sort of I just like how they sort of integrated the boss fights to just sort of this hub world you were going to, you know. That was fun. Junk was fun. That was another one that was a lot more straightforward. My only complaint there is that is one of the areas you need where you grind your titanium and memory alloys. So I was a little sick of it towards the end. It is, like I said, probably my one of my favorite areas. But when you have to go through it, how many times? It loses some of that specialness it had. And like I said, that's the junk heap is pretty straightforward, standard. The manor, that one sort of does some interesting things, but doesn't deviate too much and is a good time too. Lost Shrine, where we're at now, very similar to Manor, definitely also very good. Facade. I didn't like Facade as much for some reason. I think it was fine, but I don't know. It just didn't. It just wasn't as fun for me. I can't really explain it. It was still a really good level, and I just realized I went the wrong way. It was still a really good level, though. Just not my favorite of the group. Probably the levels that were more meh is probably the final level, actually. Although that might have to do with just you replaying it and that. It was fine the first time, but I think some of its flaws sort of come out, and maybe people noticed it even earlier than I did. Did I just go the wrong way again? I haven't gone here in a while. Yeah, I just did it again. Yikes. Forest of Myth was by far the worst, I think, though. I did not have fun in that area at all, but it's only one sort of bad level compared to everything else the game offers. Also, Seafront was just kind of okay, too. But yeah, some of the gimmicks they'll do different gameplay element changes or sort of do a top-down view or a side-scrolling view, stuff like that. I feel like I'm going the wrong way again. Okay, yeah, there's the bridge we got to get to. Just jump down. Nope. Okay. There we go. Aside from that, like I said, the story is great. This is where I might dive into some spoilers. Like I said, I don't want to say too much, but I will say, I'm pissed they killed Fiora. She was, yeah, like you see it coming with like the circumstances around everything. You know there's going to be a tragedy. That's sort of part of the tone of this game too. But it's just like, damn. She showed me around town. She was a nice person, sort of one of the more innocent characters, and just like, damn, you know. It definitely had me being a little less sympathetic towards that boss when we got there. But yeah, if you enjoyed Automata, I would definitely give this one a shot. I just feel like your approach should be sort of adjusted accordingly. Like I said, I sort of got rid of my, desire for 100%, unfortunately. But even then, I feel like it could have been a little more fun if I wasn't trying to get all the side quests, especially in the first half because they're locked by the half of the game, the side quests. But like I said, if I sort of avoided some of that stuff a little more, maybe just went for the achievements. I think you get achievements for 50% of side quests. at most, so you can definitely skip a lot of them. There's a couple you can't skip, and I don't know, maybe one or two of them are kind of bad. That's if you're going for all endings though too, which I said I would recommend doing that. At least, like I said, I will say I found a way to make the third playthrough fun, but I can see that being sort of hard to justify for some people. So, like I said, if you can maybe find ways to make it a little more fun, like I said, I just tried speed running in and sort of not perfecting, but enhancing that end of it in that third playthrough, and I was fine. And then I can't speak for this route yet, so, but hopefully that's worth it. This route actually I heard was exclusive to this game. This was brand new. There was this. I think there was one side quest that was exclusive too, which I was originally mad about because it involves a character who dies, and obviously they die. You lose access to the side quest. Well, I didn't know that. I didn't know really there was a time limit, and I was waiting to go to a certain area that sort of involved the side quest, and by the time I got there, it was too late. So that kind of sucked, but I guess it wasn't the biggest deal at the end of everything, though, either, especially when you have other playthroughs. Speaking of 100%ing, though, I remember the words, too, which are sort of like your COD programs from the previous game, that they're a lot more painful to get this time around, too, if you're going for that. There's one other thing I should mention. The ending's good. Like, the very, very ending, or at least the original one, like I said, this was an added path, but it's not at Automata level, I think, but it's pretty good. I just thought, if you're aware of the ending, I think there is some decent expectations, and like I said, I think it lives up enough. It doesn't surpass it. I think Automata is better, but I'm fine with it. Actually, when I think about it, the endings are almost the way they approach it with when you're replaying. Once again, this is a spoiler, but because in this one you replay the second half, and the first one you more replay the first half. I also did resist. I was going to make a sort of sarcastic comment about, boy, the final boss was kind of fun. I think he would be a cool playable character. But yeah, I guess that's all I'll say about that. But yeah, overall, it's one of the missed opportunities, disappointing, but overall still a good time.